My GF asked to open the relationship, and I just pointed her to the door. Story 2. So there is no big deal in just asking. LOL, what could possibly go wrong in revealing I want to other people to my very monogamous who has been very clear about being cheated on before? I mean, I guess for oops sake. It's a good thing she was this stupid instead of just serial cheating secretly. Story 3. Wait, so all of her friends were taking turns banging this dude? And telling each other about it? And she wanted to be the next one to do him after all of her other friends? Who does this? And why would he still want to be friends with their mutual friends after learning this is what's happening on girls' nights? Story 4. I guess I'm just a bit more old-fashioned than most. There has never, ever been a situation where my friends said, "Hey, we all fucked this woman. You should too?" I cannot wrap my mind around her wanting to screw this guy who had already made the rounds in her friends group. Ugh. To me, it just shows a total lack of self-respect. Story 5. Randomly asking your partners to let you sleep with someone else you've hidden, specifically because you had your eyes on him for a while, was never going to lead to a healthy, open relationship. Admitting you were secretly lusting for someone when your partner already had trust issues is heinous. OP was smart to end things right there. Edit to change bad typo. Story 6. Finally someone posting on RA with a spine. On RA, it's always something ridiculous like, my hit me, shitted in my cereal, and kicked my dog. How can I communicate my needs better? Story 7. There's a fair section of these bore you posts where the person runs off camping and cuts contact with the world for a few days. Breakups seem to happen during good weather. Story 8. Open relationship is a bell you cannot unring. If my partner asked for it, I'd know they weren't satisfied staying in the boundaries of our relationship, and that'd probably be it. Story 9. Also, I got a text from her, something on the lines that she feels that we are not over yet, and that she thinks I need time to leave all this behind me, and she will wait in the hope of it. I haven't texted her back, because I'm pretty sure I'm done, but experience has taught me to never say never. Why doesn't OOP just definitively end it? Why let her cling on to false hope? Tell her it's over, then both of them can move on with their lives. Never say never? Dude, this isn't a rom-com. She tried to have her cake and eat it too, and you're keeping the door open to getting back together. Fuck out of here. Story 10. I count myself as non-monogamous, but my partner is. We have had pretty solid discussions around our relationship, and he is not open to it at all. I respect that. I told him as long as we are together, I am monogamous. Never ever will I ask him to open the relationship because I know he doesn't want to, and I love him more than I love non-monogamy. If this is a deal breaker, then it's a deal breaker. However, by the sounds of it, she's not wanting to open the relationship. She wants to someone else without the guilt. Story 11. I don't care for any of her excuses. She wanted to other people. She was planning to other people. She's not sorry for doing it. She is sorry she got caught. I met my husband when I was 16. We have been together 21 years. I have had plenty of single friends. Not one of them made me feel like I was missing out not dicking down with other men. I never wanted to be with another man. I was happy in my relationship, still am. I would have the same reaction Oop did and end the relationship. And it doesn't matter if he could have handled it better. She was the one who messed up. I would never trust her. And now, the friends convinced him to talk to her, and she is convinced she can win him back. No. If she loved him so much, the idea of being sloppily passed around wouldn't appeal to her. Seriously, who hears a guy banged all your friends and thinks, oh man, we need to pound it out too or I won't have any sexy story to share with them? It's gross. Story 12. If you have relationship drama and people who aren't your partner start blowing up your phone, know that your partner has no boundaries for their friends when it comes to the relationship. Always dump someone when their friends start attacking you. Story 13. I talked to Ope a few days after his final update. He said he was going to wait a couple of weeks to see if he wanted to get back with her or not. Well, it has been almost 3 weeks since we last spoke, except for a few texts here, others over there. So far, and as far as I know, she haven't seen this guy again, neither going out dancing with the girls. Well, after what happens, most of the guys went on defensive mode about letting their girlfriends go dancing, just the girls. Apart from that, well, I don't know. I set for myself a deadline of 4 weeks, so next week I should take a resolution. Don't know. If by the time she has dated other guys, It means she has moved on and it's time for me to do the same. Also worth noting that OP is in his 40s. This is far from some HS bullshit. Story 14. I'm in a poly relationship and was active in the poly kink community, and non-monogamous relationships that are successful almost always start that way, with both parties coming to the conclusion they want non-monogamy independent of each other. Opening up a previously monogamous relationship is usually a can of worms with less than enthusiastic consent from one party and full of drama. Most poly folk avoid those like the plague lol. Story 15. I just don't know why people think this talk coming out of the blue will be well received. Just break up with the guy, girl, and go do your thing. This is nothing more than, I want my cake and to eat it too. Unless you start out as open, I think the odds of making a go of it from an established relationship in the long term of that arrangement are exceedingly small. Polyamorous is a cute word that means I just want to whomever and not get in trouble for it. Oh, and I still want to you too. Story 16. My money was going on her using it as a way to not be the one to break up with him. I loved this guy's English. There is a charming quality about it. He seems like a really decent guy and I wish him all the best. Drinks and drunken friends are bad counselors. This is so true and I would like this a flare ha. Story 17. While I think the guy is completely in his right and did the right call, it irks me when guys say that we men are pigs, and it is pretty rare that a guy just want to dance. That is projecting. Plenty of men can dance with women without trying to them. Decent guys, that is. It sounds to me that given the right circumstances, there would be a chance he would cheat, because he is, after all, a pig. Story 18. I would have the same reaction to someone asking me that. Apparently it works for some people. I am not one of them. And the people calling it a simple request. Please. Story 19. While there's nothing wrong with wanting an open or some type of polyamorous relationship, it only makes sense if all people involved are 100% fully on board with it. He made clear from the word go that it was a deal breaker. What did she think he would do exactly? Story 20. Monogamous people will never make open relationships work, and I wish people would understand this before they screw up the good relationships they have. Story 21. This should be the default response to anyone asking their monogamous partner to open the relationship out of the blue. It would cut down on a lot of unnecessary relationship shatens advice posts too. Story 22. I resent that comment about men are pigs. People always make comments like that and they don't even know. My pigs are such sweet girls and I would never disparage them in a comment like that. If they could dance with people, they would be perfectly able to do so and still keep it in their sweet piggy pants. Shame on OP for comparing scummy men to pigs. Story 23. Honestly, I respect his reasoning. Had she asked to ask, we can talk and figure out what's missing or what she's looking for and why this was an option for her. But she only brought it up so she could have with another guy without guilt. Like, what was the plan long term? Have with the other guy, then close the relationship back? Or just indefinitely find new guys at the club to hook up with? Also, did her friends also smash and convinced her to do it also? Or were they just gassing her up? The train of thought is weird. Story 24. Some people are down to play, some people aren't. You can't take someone naturally and strongly monogamous and change that, and it's unfair to ask them to try. And I'm saying this from the opposite side of the spectrum. Story 25. Does anyone else think he is a bit immature, given his previous positive experiences with E&M that had not have any connection to his infidelity trauma? Story 26. That's pretty much how I would have handled it too. I have my own insecurities and mental health things going on, and I need my relationships to be 100% stable and predictable. That's a me thing, and I know that even if I said no to the request, my relationship would never be the same again. Story 27. Yeah. Only time this conversation makes sense is when two people are stuck together for other reasons, other than romance. Typically in marriages when kids are involved. Story 28. Why does this feel like a teenager wrote it? Is it the typos? The superficiality of it all? The fact that people in their 30s, 40s are apparently bombarding each other with drama texts? The complete lack of any mention of a work life? Story 29. My husband was in a one-way open relationship before me. Her side only, or she would flip out. He and I both are against the idea, and we are a stronger couple than cost. People thought we ever could be. Our past defined what we would want our future to be, and when we got together, they happened to match. Ope. I hope you find your happiness. Edit for spelling. Story 30. OOP was more than justified in his reasoning. His ex-girlfriend broke multiple boundaries even before asking to open the relationship. She danced with him, probably grinding on her on the dance floor. Apparently, they kept meeting up on these girl nights out. How else was he continuing to flirt with her unless she gave him her contact information? The main problem that I see here was that she was partying with a bunch of single women. She started to act as if she was single along with them. Her friends enabled her poor decisions and kept pushing her to the point she thought she could manipulate OOP into the open relationship. She planned to have her fun with AP, then to close the relationship back up. It was just a ploy for her to cheat on OOP and not have a guilty conscience. The ex-girlfriend isn't ready for a monogamous relationship. That's evident by her actions to act single with her friends. Now, they can all share AP. Her and her friends will continue their nefarious ways, wondering why they can't find a good man. Story 31. OOP did exactly right here. Either a relationship starts poly, and even then the pattern seems to be that it doesn't go well, or it simply needs to end immediately upon asking to open it. Mono to poly never works. Story 32. So, some guy was making the rounds within the girls' group and OP's so wanted a piece of that? Yuck. Good for OP for having backbone and shutting that down ASAP. Story 33. I hate to break this to OOP, but she was definitely dancing with guys every time she went out with the girls, and there's a 0% chance they didn't at least make out. I'm pretty certain it was more than that, but not positive. Story 34. Fran is either hopelessly delusional or has major chutzpah. She tries to open the relationship, gets broken up with, and is confident that her ex will eventually forgive her. In spite of her horrendous behavior, I am a little impressed with her honest selfishness. Story 35. Drinks and drunken friends and Reddit are bad counselors. I don't know why people goaded him into closure. He guessed correctly. And who wants to sleep with the guy all your friends slept with? That is like me sharing a lollipop with friends. Yuck. Story 36. People get so emotional they can't think straight. Which I understand, but for anyone to defend her, for her friends to be okay living with themselves, for her to be okay knowing she burned this person so bad and have the ovaries to think it's not over? I would have told her point blank. I can't have you in my life because I know you're only going to hurt me worse than you already have. I need to protect myself from you. Goodbye. And left the table like that. I doubt I could have sat through it TBH. Don't know if I even would have met her again because I would have spazzed on the friends asking me to consider giving her another chance before too. Story 37. The whole me and my friends wanted to try a new flavor of man with an exotic-looking guy is super weird to me. Every friend fucking the same guy on purpose too? So strange to me, and I'm no prude, I'll tell you that. You deserve better, my guy. You seem like a nice man, and even though it's very depressing, yes, you are better off without her. Story 38. She wasn't even allowed to dance with other guys because he is so sure that other guys will have bad intentions. I guess that means he has bad intentions when he interacts with any woman. She is so much better off without him. She didn't cheat. She didn't let herself do anything that would betray him. She had a conversation with her husband. A discussion. That's it. And for that, he discards her because he obviously knows better and only his opinions count. He had previously said he wasn't interested in such a thing, but that doesn't mean she can't open a discussion or ask a question. Story 39. I'm polyam. I've been polyam my whole adult life, and I think this guy was totally in the right. When we have very different relationship expectations and needs, things don't work out. He was super upfront that he was monogamous and she disrespected that and thought he'd compromise, even though he'd never given any indication that was on the table. This is the definition of FAFO for her. Story 40. We need more kings like this guy in the world. Way too much fucking around and not nearly enough finding out. Listen to your shitty drunk friends and this is what you get. Story 41. To me, there's a big difference between I'm interested in opening our relationship and I want to open our relationship because I have my eyes on someone already. The latter just feels wrong. Story 42. Other people need to learn to mind their own business what goes on in your relationship, and your expectations don't need to be justified to anyone other than the involved parties. Story 43. For anyone who is considering opening their relationship, here's a handy-dandy guide for how to gauge your partner's response. If the answer isn't yes, then the answer is no, or Story 44. This seems to be a trend I notice on some of the threads on open relationships, etc. In this case, it shouldn't have been, We should be in an open relationship and this is why. But with this, threesomes, swinging, any kink or exploration, it should be a discussion, a talk, to find out the thoughts about said subject, and most importantly, consent. One thing I have found from the threads, and from some friends who are in non-monogamous relationships, it is a lot harder to maintain that lifestyle. Lots of communication and rules. OOP had stated his thoughts in the past, and the ex came at it with almost an entire presentation to convince him. She basically cheated on him in all but act and wanted to get the okay. This is not okay. Never. I feel this is a, what are your thoughts on open relationships? Is it something you would be okay with? And explore and listen, but never push. Same with anything else in a relationship. What is our thoughts on bondage, or thoughts on, etc.? Listen, talk non-judgmentally, and if most important, if either say no, then it's a no. Oop is not wrong in this, and X should really consider what her friend's actions are doing for her. They should have been both stopping her and keeping the Lothario away from her. Hope OPP find his mental health again. Story 45. The weirdest part to me is that the guy was going through having with her entire friend group one after the other, and she was like, cool, my turn. This dude must be the sovest guy alive for a group of women to agree to spend a couple weeks all fucking him and getting their friends and relationships to the guy too. That's incredible, NGL. Story 46. That's exactly how I picture myself reacting if my GF asks the same question or tells me she cheated. The exact same reaction. No words, just point to the door. Good for you, OP. Good for you. Story 47. So she threw away a serious relationship with a potential marriage prospect for a fling with essentially a boy toy who had with several other girls in this friend group, and thus she will never be anything but a forgettable fling to this guy. NTA. You did the right thing. Story 48. So she blew up a long-term relationship over a man who was already screwing all her friends? Wow. There's bad judgment. And then there's bad judgment. Story 49. I feel like they both did the right thing. As far as he knows, she never physically cheated. If she emotionally cheated, she realized it and tried to open up instead. The right thing was to be honest and break up. She was honest. He broke up. She didn't expect that, but accepted it and left without a fight. Didn't stalk him afterward, didn't lie to everyone and say he cheated on her. So I'd say she handled this breakup way better than many monogamous men handle theirs. She could have been more specific at first, but she at least told him she wanted to other men, which is the gist. He trusted her. She could have easily taken advantage of that and carried on with new exotic guy in secret, but she didn't. He may have felt guilty because sometimes society teaches us that we should try to keep a relationship going, unless our partner is a bad person. So he felt guilty about breaking up with someone even though she's not some kind of evil sociopath. Some of the commenters tried to remedy that cognitive dissonance by demonizing her, but there's really no need for that, and OP makes it pretty clear he doesn't agree. You can be incompatible with someone without hating them. You should value whether the relationship is good for you, regardless of whether your partner is malicious or not. That's the lesson I hope he learns. Story 50. She should cut all her party singles friends if she wanted some reconciliation. But even so, some people can't help but broke up as they knew themselves, and it would cost them too much stress. Story 51. I love that they always try to put in that it will be good for their relationship. No, it'll be good for you if I say yes because you already have someone you want to sleep with. So as soon as you get the go-ahead, you're going to go that guy and I'm just here by myself. It's pathetic. And you'd think people would learn by now that if someone tells you from the beginning they aren't okay with this, to never attempt to try down the road because yours getting kicked to the curb. Story 52. He should be cutting out that entire gaggle of herons that were scheming about how to get him to agree to be in an open relationship. Those aren't friends worth keeping. Story 53. No, you didn't. This isn't the relationship you want, so you ended it. This is your decision. No one else's opinions matter. This is your life. I think you made this decision clear-minded and thoughtfully. It's something you know you're not okay with. This means she was already thinking about doing things with this person and has mentally cheated and wanted to do the action. It doesn't make it any better that she wanted your approval. This isn't what you signed up for or want to. Why continue? Knowing she would want another person and the resentment of getting into open relationships in the first place is brought to surface. It can get toxic and kinda nasty. It takes a certain type of person to handle open relationships, and we've seen them on TV or with our own friends. My husband used to have this and his GF went off and got married to the other guy, lol. While you were there thinking about your future together, she wanted to add more people in. You're not okay with it, and if she wants that, she should have thought about it before getting with you. A lot of people, including myself, are not for open relationships, and typically, they don't work and some people break rules. I say you did things right by you. If my husband came to me one day and wanted an open relationship, I'd do the same, probably in the same mannerism as you and I. Also, wouldn't be sad, I'd be angry. Honestly, Lowell, it's okay. You'll find someone they wants you and only you one day. And sadly, it wasn't the person you'd think. You're in mourning of your relationship. Cry it out, be strong, and be monogamously you. Story 54. You did not go overboard. If she had someone in mind, she has already started the ball rolling, you are correct. Probably already has at least had an emotional affair, and most likely, a physical affair. You have the right to determine the boundaries for your relationship, and if she violated that boundary by wanting to be with another person, you have the right to end the relationship. You need to respect your own boundaries. Story 55. Having the thought and discussing it with your friends while drunk is one thing, but talking about it for 2 weeks and still blaming being drunk? Unless she's an alcoholic and was drunk that entire time, she's just making excuses, blaming everything and everyone but herself and saying what she thinks might win him back. I don't believe that nothing happened between her and the guy. Also, who in their right mind wants someone that is making their way through the friend group? The guy sounds like a walking STD. Story 56. My phone has going almost nuclear with all the calls and text I received from friends of both sides about my extreme reaction over her simple request. It's always interesting to me how many people will try to talk you into going back on your known and expressed deal breakers. Walking away from someone when they test your deal breakers is really just holding good boundaries, and people who try to erode your boundaries are people who will make you miserable in time. She crossed a line. He walked away. That's all there is to it, and that's where it should end. She's in denial that it's really over, but for both of them, it's best if it is. Story 57. The man she want to F is who ring around, and that's the man she want to risk her relationship with. For just being dip-dip for maybe once or twice because her friends all have dip-dip with this man? Story 58. I've read a lot of these posts, and usually the consensus is that acting on urges is already cheating, even without an actual sexual act. By pursuing the thought and asking the question, she was already acting on her urges, at least based on the standards of people here. Story 59. Are you my twin? Because I would have had the same reaction. I think about this exact scenario in my head all the time and what my reaction would be, and it always settles on just quietly saying, we're done, get your, and get out. Story 60. If someone is truly monogamous, then they will never warm up to the idea of opening the relationship. So if a person has made it clear that they are monogamous, then that boundary needs to be respected. Even mentioning it is a deal breaker and automatic grounds for ending the relationship, mostly because a truly caring partner wouldn't try to revisit that topic knowing that their partner isn't into it. Enthusiastic consent is mandatory. If isn't a yes, then it's a no. If someone can read through this story and still not understand why OP had to break up for the sake of his mental health, they lack empathy. Honestly, I'm not hating on the silent poly people that do their relationships right. I'm hating the ones like this dude's ex who try to have their cake and eat it at the expense of their partner. People like this woman are selfish, greedy, and don't deserve to be happy. Story 61. I'm proud of OP for handling this like a chance. I really hope this idiotic trend of everyone being enamored with the idea of open relationships dies out soon. There's nothing wrong with being non-monogamous, but most of these people are not non-mon. They're just horny, selfish idiots trying to pull a fast one on their partners. Story 62. Rough, but an excellent example of boundaries and honest communication. For OOP, once the idea got brought up, he knew he would forever have suspicions about it due to his past trauma, and rather than force the issue, he broke it off. She was able to sit down and listen to his reasoning, and even though she still feels like there is a spark, she is also accepting that for now it is over, and her actions were the cause. No one is being blamed, no one is being shamed. It was just two people who no longer are following the same path together. This one just happened abruptly. Story 63. Of course, a few girls in the group pointed that I could do things in a better way, and also there was a few question about if could consider give her another chance. What better way and why? They not married, engaged, or living together. They were dating for 2 years. She wanted permission to cheat with a specific person. He broke up with her. Even if he hadn't already made his stance there clear, you don't owe people 37 years of explanation for why you're breaking up with them, especially when they admit they want to someone else. Oh, because they tried to convince her to bang that dude. He shouldn't have met with her because now she's going to fixate on him. Story 64. That feeling of can't trust will never go away, and it will consume and destroy you as a person. Best to move on for your own mental health. Speaking on experience, ex-wife cheated. Story 65. My big question is, how did friends get involved? Redditors? Do your friends get involved in such topics? Even when our friends, a couple, got divorced, we stayed our distance, offered emotional support, but never intervened in their decisions. I keep seeing posts about how friends blow up their phones. How does it happen? Story 66. Really smart move to ask if she had somebody in mind already, saved him a lot of bullshit. At that point, she's already emotionally cheated, so out the door she goes. Story 67. I've only known 3 couples who did open relationships. Never worked out and crashed and burned. Years later, one girl was still upset I didn't sleep with her because I was friends with her ex. You were my friend first. Then there's some guys that want you to be in an open relationship. It's so weird. They send you MSGs telling you that a little competition isn't that bad and that if you're not insecure, it'll work out. I get a lot of things. I've tried a ton of stuff. This, pass. Story 68. Am I the only person who doesn't have all my friends' SOs on speed dial? Who are all these friends that instantly feel the need to weigh in on a breakup? It's just baffling to me. And these aren't teens, or at least so says OP. So, don't people have anything better to do? I've started being deeply suspicious of any post that includes the friend group all weighing in immediately. Because, well, friends of mine have literally divorced, and the only thing everyone tried to keep to was to stay out of it, other than being generally supportive. Are we just deeply disengaged from each other's lives, or are people suddenly obsessed with having a say in their friends' relationships? Story 69. Ops writing is seriously difficult to read. Typos everywhere, strange choice of words, bad grammar. It's honestly over the top. Makes me wonder if it's done on purpose. Story 70. Read the post and updates. OP, you handled the relationship paradigm shift with remarkable restraint. Good for you for keeping your head in the chaos. After the emotions calm down, maybe try some casual dating. With a mature, emotionally stable person, be clear that there are no expectations beyond that evening. Good luck. Story 71. Good job taking the initiative and shutting that down in the most respectful way possible, before she inevitably caved and hurt you much, much more. As soon as she was interested in fucking another guy, so much so she tried to find a way to him and keep you too, the relationship was over. So many people want to have their cake and eat it too. And that's not how monogamy or life in general works. Such is the opportunity cost of committing to someone and settling down. Story 72. The story's pretty basic. Around 2 months before she asked for the open relationship, on her girls' dancing night out, they meet this exotic, good-looking guy. During the first month, he was the new flavor that all the singles friends on the group were trying out, which leads to girl-taking and sharing experiences. Eventually, this guy, that was having his way with all the girls around him, set his eyes on Fran and begun to flirt with her, taking her to dance floor, having fun. This is totally not classic. Story 73. Yeah. Asking because you're curious and have been in a 15-plus year marriage is different than asking because you have someone lined up and you're bored of your 2-year-old relationship. Once there is another person in mind, prompting the topic to come up, there has already been some emotional infidelity. I feel like the order of operations really shine a light on intention. She wanted to cheat, but have his blessing to do so. Story 74. My philosophy has always been, if you're thinking about cheating, break it off. Feelings will be hurt, but the damage will be at an acceptable level. When you basically tell the person that you're supposed to love that you want to other people is a whole other level of disrespect, at least to me. Not to mention the psychological blow of why am I not good enough? It's humiliating, hurtful, disrespectful, and frankly just vicious. Especially when you know how your partner feels about such matters. Story 75. So this guy nails most the women in this friend group. Lord knows how many were actually single. And now this guy's GF hears about their experiences and decides she wants a ride too? Honestly, quite disgusting behavior, That would have been enough for me to never look at her the same again. Story 76. I did it because there was already a guy, so for me that was a major trust issue. So OOP is never going to date anyone who ever entertains thoughts about fucking other people? Good luck, buddy. Story 77. She told me that she and her friends never thought that I would end the relationship in the moment, that the worst scenario would be me getting angry and saying no. So there is no big deal in just asking. I doubt she would accept a no after all the discussions and flirting. Drunken conversations would have shifted to how to wear him down or how to mend things after. Story 78. Well, now she has everything she wanted, doesn't she? All the time. Fulfill her fantasies until the end of the world. Why do the cheap theater? And although she denied, she certainly has already done the deed. I can't stand these kind of persons who do damage and expect that there will be no consequences. Even more, they expect a medal. Story 79. There are a few interesting things to me here. The fact that OP has beliefs saying men are pigs, and that he is already breaking it off with the girl and he still wants to know if they met up after he sent her away. I get that he has a bad experience with cheating before and was firm in that he didn't want that. But it still seems a bit of an overreaction, and could have at least heard her out over her story and issues in their current relationship before he took the nuclear option and kick her out. Story 80. She literally already cheating emotionally, breaking the no dudes on dance night, flirting, and falling for this guy a lot of her friends slept with. Like little things put in one image, she was shooting for the spice of it and even wanted the physical part. Iman burned the steak part. Story 81. I'm not saying it would never ever work, but to me, so fundamentally changing the relationship after it's already existed for a while is absolutely a red flag. I had this happen in basically the opposite of the stereotypical way. LOL. I personally don't have the time or energy to be a good partner to multiple people at once, but I've happily but in poly or open relationships before. A couple of years ago, I met this guy and we hit it off and decided to start a relationship. I was in the process of moving and had to go back to my home state for a while to pack and clean up. So I asked him if he wanted an open relationship since he was very sexually active, and I was anticipating not being back for a couple of months. He seemed pretty shocked and maybe even a little offended that I asked and told me that he's strictly monogamous, has never been in any other type of relationship and doesn't want to be. So, there. The boundaries are set. Things go on for a few months and one day we're driving back home from a date and he randomly tells me that he wants to open up the relationship. I was super thrown off and asked him why since he was so opposed to the idea before. He basically told me that he felt that God probably means for the ideal relationship to be an open relationship. Lol. So I promised him I'd think about it. Needless to say, the next week I found out that he'd been cheating on me with multiple women, and he later told me that it was because he was insecure about how gay I made him feel. Total train wreck. Story 82. Who are all these friends constantly suggesting that people in relationships can mess around? I've never known anyone like that, but they're in almost every Reddit post. Every friend I have would shut those suggestions down. Hard. I just don't get why there are so many people who surround themselves with friends who encourage them to make bad decisions instead of telling them to do the right thing. Do I have some kind of unicorn, decent friend group? Story 83. I'd react the same way TBH. If you don't start poly and you've never spoken about it, what makes someone think the other partner is going to be cool with it and not assume they already have someone in mind?